Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank all of you who've been joining us throughout the years. It's always been an honor to share with you information, news, analysis about what's going on in Mexico, both in English and in Spanish. Really, really appreciate you joining us today. This, it wasn't surprising news because there already had been an announcement at least 2 weeks ago, but it was finalized this week. Mexico did purchase a refinery in Texas, and at least the initial information that was announced during Andrés Manuel López Obrador's press conference is that the Mexican government had paid $600 million for half of their share of this refinery. As you know, the Mexican government, Pemex, already owned half of the Deer Park refinery in Texas. So basically, it just went out all right and they just bought the whole thing. After conversing with some experts, especially today's expert, I have a sense, and I may be wrong, that either the Mexican government was duped or they just bought a white elephant. I don't know, but I really appreciate today's guest, David Shields. You know him well. He's been joining us throughout the years. It's really good to have you back, David. Am I wrong? I mean, when I try to think through why would the Mexican government buy a refinery in the United States? Just keep half of their share. What's wrong with that? Just put into context what happened. Welcome to the show, David.
Well, I think you are absolutely right. I think the half of the refinery that they owned gave them access to the refinery, to the processing plants, to be able to produce gasoline with their extra heavy crude. And probably, as you say, there was no need to buy the other half. There are several refineries that Pemex uses on the US Gulf Coast, even without any ownership, to produce gasoline, to process its extra heavy oil. In the case of this refinery, well, I think the initial sin of President López Obrador is that he is very much obsessed with oil, and he is very much obsessed with refineries. He has 6 refineries in Mexico that are in very bad shape. He's trying to clean them up a bit. He's trying to improve them. He's trying to build a whole new refinery in Tabasco in the southeast of Mexico, the Dos Bocas refinery. And he is obsessed with the idea that countries have to be self-sufficient in oil and in fuels, especially fuels that ordinary people are using from day to day. And this is the logic behind what he is doing. I don't think this ought to be such a great priority for Mexico or for the president, because the global fuel market is very liquid. You can buy fuel everywhere at any time, just at market prices, and you're dealing with market prices in any case. And also, this purchase, it's not clear at all to me that this purchase really makes a great difference towards fuel self-sufficiency, which is apparently what Pemex is trying to achieve. There are, however, many downsides to this. They're buying a refinery that has heavy liabilities. It has $1 billion in liabilities, half of which already were Pemex's, and now the other half will be. But it also has, the purchase is coming at a time when environmental activists are getting very, very, they're getting very intense about trying to get major oil producers to pay for their damage to the planet. They're trying to make oil producers aware that they have a responsibility in the battle against climate change. And just this week, we saw a court in The Hague, Holland, order Shell to reduce its emissions by half in a period of 10 years. And this is something that's going to reverberate throughout the global oil industry, and particularly in the United States.
Well, I guess that leads me to my second question, because as you and I had the opportunity to converse on one of my TV shows, it was, it dawned on me that this purchase may also become a liability in the bilateral relationship because, Joe Biden has been quite clear that they are going to take extraordinary steps to combat climate change and that they're not friendly towards these big oil companies. And they're going to probably be restricting or imposing, stronger restrictions that the Mexican government's going to have to abide to, in addition to labor, laws and requirements. And I don't know if the Mexican government realizes that.
I'm pretty sure this is one of the issues that they did not take into account. López Obrador has sounded very confident that his relations with Joe Biden will move forward. They will be pretty good in general. But it seems that when and his team talk about oil, they just don't think about the environment. And in Mexico, they pollute merrily and nobody says anything. Or at least if the environmentalists do say something, they can't really stop the government. They have no influence on the authority. The problem that Pemex could face with the Deer Park refinery is that if there is a climate disaster, a natural disaster, something that affects national security in the United States, the Texas governor, the energy secretary, or the US president himself could prohibit the exports of gasoline to Mexico. Or they could find reasons for shutting down the refinery based on local legislation. And this is part of the cultural problem that Pemex is going to face with this refinery. It is not accustomed to dealing with US labor unions, with US rules and laws, and with dealing with environmental issues related to the oil industry that are going to be part and parcel of their dealings in the Deer Park refinery. This is not going to be as simple, or is certainly not going to be the same as operating a refinery in Mexico. You're in a whole different cultural environment.
One last question, and because we're running out of time, and I really appreciate you joining us today. Is there's an approval process that has to take place in the United States in order for this purchase to take place? Do you think there's going to be any problems?
It's hard to judge that. I would assume there will not be big problems because I don't think environmental issues affect that very much. Oil assets are being bought and sold constantly in the United States, and I think in general there's no great regulatory problem with that. Yeah.
David Shields, energy expert. He's been joining us throughout the years. I really, really appreciate you joining us today here on Living in Mexico. Boy, it's been a while. There's so much that's been going on. I remember when you and I started, when I started interviewing you more than 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I mean, we couldn't even imagine the energy reforms that have taken place in Mexico, and now the reverse. So it's crazy times. Yeah. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Great to